Hello everybody, Jock12 back here again with another video, and I'm here with my official review for The Flash Season 2, Episode 18, titled Versus Zoom. Now, of course, if you haven't seen this episode, please go check it out because this review may contain spoilers. But that being said, let's get into the newest episode of CW's The Flash. Now, obviously, if you're a viewer and or subscriber of my channel, then you would know that I haven't really done a review or an episode video discussing Flash or Arrow or even the crossovers with Supergirl. And a lot of that has to do with two factors. Now, number one, BVS came out, and to be quite frank and blunt, BVS completely drained me of any energy or hope or any kind of desire to continuously watch DC content. I know how sad and messed up that sounds because I know the TV stuff and the movie stuff are separate for idiotic reasons, but it just, oh my god, that movie was just such a gigantic disappointment. No offense to anybody who loves it, but it was just such a disappointment to me as a hardcore fan of this universe that I really don't really care about DC Universe stuff that much anymore, and that's really sad, of course, outside of comic books, because for those of you who don't know, you freaking kids who don't know anything, they still make comic books, yes, because of all the massively successful TV shows and movies we get nowadays, they still make comic books monthly, so, you know, get up on that, but as it stands, I'm still starting to get back into the whole DC thing. You know, Suicide Squad I have some faith in. Wonder Woman and Batman are two properties that I can't wait to see. But beyond that, Justice League related stuff and everything else in between that, I just, no. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And on top of that, the Supergirl stuff. The Supergirl stuff was a major hindrance to me reviewing Flash and Arrow the past several weeks because, obviously, for those of you who don't know, The Flash had a crossover with Supergirl. It came out around the same time as BVS, and it was titled World's Finest on Supergirl. It was a Supergirl crossover on that show, and that was a major problem for me because I actually don't watch Supergirl anymore. Ever since I stopped reviewing the show on my channel, I haven't really watched any episodes. I mean, I've seen a couple of stuff here and there. I know they introduced Martian Manhunter, spoilers, but other than that, I really haven't been up to date with Supergirl, so there was a lot of episodes and content I had to get up to date with, which was not an easy thing to do, especially coming from me, who's very lazy and uninterested in said show. So, it is what it is. I should be commended for the freaking amount of episodes I had to watch with that damn show, but as it stands, if I could briefly give you a recap on the Supergirl crossover, not to mention the previous Flash episode that I did not review, which was episode 17 titled Flashback, if I'm not mistaken. The Supergirl crossover, World's Finest, it was okay. I feel like the best way I can put it is that it was a god-awful episode. However, everything that had to deal with the Flash was the best part about that episode. It's kind of like Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. It's like everything that has to do with Superman is nonsense. However, everything that has to do with Batman is pretty freaking cool and awesome, and I want to see more of that, and that's where the Flash comes in. So that's pretty much the best way I can put it without being so overly offensive, which I'm pretty sure I already have been. So, but that's pretty much all I can say about the crossover. I didn't like it. I thought it was stupid and cheesy. James Olsen, what does he do on that show? I don't know. And all the girl assistant, girlfriend, new supervillain, whatever. It was just stupid and god-awful. However, everything the Flash, like every scene where the Flash is in is like, oh yes, give me more. But other than that, it's just god-awful. The Flash episode, the previous one, Flashback, it was pretty okay. I will admit that the Flash has been lacking in good content lately. However, last week's episode, even though they retconned some things and they went back in time again to, you know, ruin things because Barry's kind of dumb to a certain extent, even though he feels like he's doing the right thing, he does kind of flub up some things. And yes, last week was definitely a flub up because he went back in time and retconned some certain factors. And I feel like if I was a smart person, which I'm obviously not, if I went back to season 1 and just like looked at the timelines as to what they did in this episode, I feel like you can just like pick and choose and like make an entire alternate timeline of everything that's now fucked up because of what Barry did last week's episode. I mean, but they kind of soft pedaled on it. They were just like, oh, everything's okay. Everything happened the same way. It's just the only difference is Pied Piper's a good guy. It's like, really? Who fucking cares? That's just stupid. Whatever. It was an okay episode, just wasn't amazing. However, that being said, we're up to date with the newest episode of The Flash, which is Barry trying to take on Zoom. Now, spoilers, but we finally get a chance to bring in some doorways into Earth 2 to bring Zoom over so Barry can finally take him on. Now that Barry, of course, in the previous episodes and with the Supergirl stuff, he's been able to get on, this new kind of technology via, Harrison Wells' past timeline, which is, of course, Eobard Thawne. He was able to get some technology to up his speed so he can be on par with Zoom. So with that being said, pretty much this episode was a numbers by numbers, a paint by numbers of, okay, here's the good guy, here's how we're going to get him to be on par with Zoom, here's how we're going to get Zoom, we got Zoom. Now Zoom, it gets the upper hand because we're not at the finale yet, so obviously the main villain has to get the upper hand somehow. So of course he gets the upper hand, he gets what he wants, and then we get a cliffhanger for future episodes. That's basically what this episode is, and it's okay, I guess. I don't know. It's a very weird thing. I mean, the Zoom factor, they definitely wanted to go more in depth with Zoom's character, and I feel like this was a terrible move on CW's part. I think the best part about having great villains, which what Zoom was previously in this season, was that we didn't know anything about him. He was badass looking, he looked demonic and crazy, and he outmatched Barry in every which way. He was faster, stronger, and more badass than Barry, and that's what made him so awesome. But then they ruined it by, obviously making Zoom Jay Garrick, and then they ruined it again by giving him this sympathetic past storyline of like, oh, he was a child who was ruined by his father's ridiculous notions of morality or whatever the fuck, and he killed his mother, blah, blah, blah. And they try to tie in his story with Barry's, trying to be like, which is such a cliche villain hero storyline, which is like, if we could have been the same guy, if something like this happened to you, you would have become me, all that kind of bullshit. It's like, don't do that to Zoom. Like, the cool thing about Zoom is that we didn't know anything. Why can't we just go back to that? But no, they had to ruin it with all this flashbacks to, Zoom's history, Hunter Zolomon's history, and all that kind of jibber jabber. And it's just, I don't know. I wasn't big on it. I really felt like they should have kept Zoom's history a mystery. I don't know why that kind of rhymes in my head, but whatever. That kind of caught me off guard. But as it stands, I wasn't really big into that. I mean, granted, it's cool to see Hunter Zolomon's history, and I know this is DC Comic Books, of course. Everyone needs to have an introduction to a character's history, their backstory, but when it comes to villains, can't we just have a bad guy be a bad guy for the sake of being bad? Why do we have to have this whole like, oh, well, I have issues because my dad was a psychopath and he killed my mom, and I spent most of my history in an orphanage and a mental institute. That's why I'm a serial killer, and now I have the Speed Force, and I want to be all-powerful. So there's that. It's like, okay, well, you pretty much gave me everything I need to be sympathetic towards a person who's not supposed to be sympathetic. So thanks, CW, for ruining a great villain, but it is what it is. But as it stands, everything else that's outside of Zoom is actually pretty good. I mean, like, I really enjoyed Barry's antics trying to get everyone on his side to go back to Earth 2 to defeat Zoom. I really like Cisco's missions, hence, I guess the main reason as to why they're making a new Cisco TV show. For those of you who don't know, apparently there's this new web series dedicated to just Cisco Ramon, which I don't know how that's going to play out, but it is what it is. And you have Caitlin in her problems. Harrison Wells still out there trying to find his daughter for reasons because, I get it. It is his daughter, but at the same time, it's like, she's an irrelevant character, so should we care? I don't know. And then you have Wally West trying to move in with his family that he now calls his family, and all this kind of weird, wacky stuff. And then, of course, we kind of go into a throwback to now Iris is starting to have feelings for Barry again, and Barry's kind of just, dealing with his own shit. So it's a very weird thing that this episode's kind of dealing with. I feel like they're setting up way too much for the finale episodes, but we still got a long way to go. But as it stands, this was an okay episode. I know everybody else on the internet is ranting out the mouth like, oh, this is the worst episode ever. It's a terrible episode. For me personally, it's an okay episode. I mean, like, coming from a guy who like almost completely lost hope in DC, It's okay. It's an okay episode. It's not a phenomenal episode, but it's an okay episode, and I do feel like they made major mistakes with the character Zoom. I do think that they ended the episode terribly by having Zoom get Barry's power, even though at the end of the day, this is the superhero genre. We already know that Zoom will lose. Barry will get his powers back, and if he doesn't, we have Wally West, who will probably end up being a new speedster. I mean, Harrison Wells said it in the previous episode himself. They're not the only speedsters. There's more speedsters out there. So it is out there in the ether that there's more than one speedster. Of course, we've seen that with the previous episode with Trajectory or whatever fucking name was. So I don't know. This is a wacky, crazy episode with a shit ton of content and various subplots and storylines. But as it stands, it's not my favorite episode. I feel like they made a lot of mistakes in this episode. However, it wasn't a terrible episode. It was just okay. But let me know what you personally think in the comment section below. My final verdict for this episode is a solid 6 out of 10. It was good. The action was nice. The special effects were pretty cool. The acting was really decent. The characterization was interesting, but, you know, everything that had to deal with Zoom, Barry and Zoom's debacle, of course, Barry losing his powers, even though we already know, you know, he's probably going to end up getting his powers back anyways. I mean, come on, guys. This happened multiple times in the comic books, multiple times in the cartoons. Hell, it happened in season 1. He lost his powers and got it back. So it's inevitable. He's going to get his powers back. Zoom will lose. Caitlin will be safe. And all will be well. And I'm sure some twists and turns will happen along the way, but it's still going to end up the same fucking way. So it is what it is, but my final verdict stands. It's a 6 out of 10. Let me know what you personally think in the comment section below. And of course, I'm back reviewing Flash and Arrow, and I hope you guys enjoy that. But with that being said and done, quick little update. I will not do an Arrow review for this week. I will, for the previous Arrow episode, I'm going to leave that for the next week. So you won't see an Arrow episode until the next newest episode of Arrow comes back. I don't know if I said it correctly, if I'm making any sense, but that's pretty much what's going to happen. So keep on the lookout for that. I've been Josh12. Hope you guys enjoy. Shameless plug time. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Josh12. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And hope you guys enjoyed. And this has been Josh12.